All right, there we go. So today we're going to be having hopefully an interactive session presenting on how to grow your business with AI readiness services for our webinar today. It's part of a series that we're running through, and hopefully everyone that's attending will find it in some way useful. Even if you're hearing some of this stuff again for the second or third time, hopefully to reinforce it. And if you are hearing it for the first time, the recording will be available post the end of the webinar, and we'll cover a little bit of that as we go along. With me today, I'd love to introduce, you've got myself, I'm on here, but I'll start with Mike Davies. He's our product sales manager for Modern Work and Cybersecurity on Microsoft 365. Really smart guy. He's going to be doing all of the clicking and making things work. So if the slide deck fails, it's entirely up to him to help me to get it back on track. Do you want to add anything to that, Mike?
No, thanks for adding a little bit of pressure here. I appreciate it. I'm excited to get into the topic and get going here.
Excellent. And for myself, I'm the Modern Work Dynamics and Copilot lead here for the Modern Work team at Sherweb. A little bit of housekeeping. We want to make sure that this is interactive today. So for all of you out there, the Q&A is open. Feel free to pop questions in. We're going to have a few polls to keep you engaged. And based on that, again, just decide whether or not you want to participate. What you get out of this today is entirely up to you. So please do work with us by putting your questions in, pausing. If you'd like to have something answered live, feel free to get in the conversation. We will be sending you the recording and the slide deck post-webinar. Usually takes about 3 to 5 business days before we send that off. And we will share the resources following in a follow-up email, of course, thanking you for attending. So if you did sign up and you're not here today, you will see that stuff via email. For today, we're going to be covering our Copilot opportunity landscape. We want to be able to speak around our AI readiness services, which you're here to discuss today, around assessments, migration and securing data, training and adoption. Monitoring and reporting is also key in the adoption aspect. So we will be covering that in its own section. And then we'll be opening the floor again for Q&A at the end. And with that, what we'll do right now is we're going to throw up a quick poll to see where everyone in the audience sits right now. And as that's happening, we want to be able to talk a little bit about what the opportunities are going to look like for MSPs around AI readiness and why should you care? As an MSP, why should you bother? Is there market demand? Are you staying competitive? There's steps, there's a roadmap to AI or Copilot that you can benefit for your clients. And if there is a roadmap, what is that road to AI? So tell us a little bit about where you're at as an organization, company, or what you know right now, and kind of give us some feedback on that so we can see where we trend this right now and how useful it might be for you as we continue the conversation today. AI technology and the kind of overall impact. You would have seen a slide similar to this, or even faster, older slides that have said things like, it took 16 years for mobile phones, 4.5 years for Facebook, 3 months for ChatGPT. Right now, I believe it's 1 month and a half for the most recent piece of software that's been released that has now in the AI space allowed people to work more frequently, more efficiently within the workspace that they're in. So if you've heard of your Claudes.ai, you've heard of your Midjourneys, your Gemini from Google, which is blowing up on the internet right now. There's Orion coming out in ChatGPT, which is supposed to be the next even more fast, more responsive large language model coming out from OpenAI. All of these things and the adoption rates have shot through the roof. But not only that, the actual appetite for AI is here. Everyone I speak to today is using some version of AI. Mike, I don't know about you. I know about people in the audience, but there isn't a single person that, you shoot an email out or something and everything's about AI these days.
Yeah, I know I'm using Copilot for personal use as well, with on my cell phone, and I'm using Copilot obviously with work on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's here. It's here to stay. And as companies across kind of various industries, they continue to adopt the technologies. We want to be able to solve more complex problems. And the demand for those solutions will only continue to grow because what we're doing, and as the AI capabilities catch up to the expectations of the people, during that period of time, we're going to see a massive increase in that adoption. So if we think about what we're looking at here from a professional services, kind of property management, entertainment, all of these industries today, in some form or fashion, have been using some form of AI in their back end. But in today's market, that AI market is expected to grow by 126 billion by 2025. And that's just by increasing the demand for AI enabled solutions, things that will help us in our everyday life to be better. And I like explaining this one to everyone when we talk a little bit about a lot of the pushback I get on AI adoption when we talk today is like, oh yeah, the thing doesn't do anything, or it doesn't work the way they say it was going to work, and so on. And I say, let's take the motor car as an example. The car's been around for a long time. When it started, there were no seat belts, there were no backup cameras, there weren't versions of seats. Some of them didn't even have a top covering the top or a windshield to stop the wind from your face until somebody drove down a road for too far and decided there were too many bugs in their teeth and they needed to put a windshield in place. So if the car, even today, the car manufacturers have recalls on things that they should have down pat, that have been invented, refined, and improved over the years. But still today, something as commonly used as a motor car still has issues and hasn't gotten to that penultimate perfect car solution. And if that's the case, 35, 40 years into that piece of machinery becoming mainstream, imagine what's happening with AI when the version that didn't work was only 6 months ago. So when we
Yeah.
think about how we're going to get through that, the data is clear. We want to take a look at how is this opportunity in the market, and 75% of people are already using AI at work. 46% of them started using this AI less than 6 months ago. And we're already in the area where we've passed the super early adopters. They were in it a year and a half ago. We're at the point where the people that are like, oh well, this looks a bit stable now, we're going to use it every day. So if 75% of the people are already using it at work, we have to make sure that what they are using is what we want to be managing and that we have clear vision of what that is, which is why we want to talk a little bit about how Microsoft Copilot addresses those challenges and make sure that within the space that we have enough in the market that from a Microsoft 365 Copilot AI planning, deployment, usage, that you have the readiness services for your end customers, because they're the ones that are going to be asking for this. They're going to say, hey, MSP that takes care of us, we hear about AI. 75% of my staff's using it today. I need to know what they're doing with it. I need to put controls around it and need to be able to support this integration into our workday. And part of that is understanding what they need to do. So they're going to come to you and ask, how do I get AI ready? What's the services? How do I deploy it in my organization appropriately and make it work well? And how am I going to manage the ongoing utilization of this across my employee base? So very important questions. And these are questions that are coming from your end customers. So if your end customers already asked you to date about some form of AI and utilization in their organizations, which they'd like you to support, we're already too late and we need to get moving on this.
Yeah. Best case scenario is they're asking you how to implement it and how to take advantage of it. But in most cases, they're going to be asking you for information about it. What are your thoughts on AI? And that's really your triggers to start getting them into these AI readiness services that we're going to be talking about here today. And
Excellent.
so, with that, we have our second poll that we're going to be launching here. Um, so, I want to make sure that we get that going. Have you considered an AI readiness program at this point? So, have you started talking to your customers about it, or formalized a particular program or set of professional services that you're going to be rolling out to your customer? If not, you've come to the right webinar. We're ready to give you all the great tidbits that are going to help you build out that program.
And as we jump into that, Mike, like just so we know, so from the original poll coming in, we've got 61% of the attendees today that are experimenting with AI, which is good.
That's awesome.
There's only 6% that's fully integrated, right? Which
Okay.
means that there's 83% that need to, from experimenting into using it today in specific use cases, to catch up to fully integrated. And there's still 11% of our attendees that haven't started. which is crazy. Imagine that. 11% of the people here today haven't actually started anything with AI.
Wow.
And
All
in
right.
that poll, they 60% has considered, in our second poll, 60% has considered an AI readiness program or creating one. 25% is a no. And we've got some maybes in there.
Okay.
I've maybe considered it, but still thinking about it. So I would group those with the no,
Okay.
because that means there isn't a program in place.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to start by talking about a security assessment. So, one of the biggest objections that we get around using generative AI within customers' environment is this going to be secure? And so, being able to provide a security assessment for a customer and then the corresponding projects to make them more secure is a fantastic way to build revenue leading up to and enabling Copilot. So the first step that you should be looking at, or the first place you should be looking for your customer's environment, is their secure score. So this is looking at the security center uh, in a customer's environment to see where their secure score sits today. And it's going to evaluate their security posture on identity and applications, compare them against organizations that are similar to theirs, and then most importantly, provide the improvement action items or the recommendations that you're going to be having for your customer to make them more secure. So Microsoft has put together a list of next steps for you to put in place for your customer. In this case, require multi-factor authentication for administrators. In this example, would be a great way to make this customer more secure. You want to be able to take that information and show your customer that it's not just you saying that they should have multi-factor authentication. Microsoft is saying you need to be more secure. Now, the goal that you should be looking to get your customers to is 75% or higher. Not, you don't want to shoot for 100. Not absolutely everything's going to be applicable to every customer, but that 75 and higher percentage is where you want to get your customer to within that assessment. So, um, building out the actual assessment as a revenue stream is a great way to evaluate your customers. It will take time for you to invest in it. So there's value for the customer in understanding where their security posture sits. So you should be putting this as a chargeable service to give them this type of assessment. Now, with that, there are a bunch of different licensing and security options that you're going to have to combine with Copilot. Your business best in class option is going to be, or sorry, your most comprehensive for the business class is going to be business premium. Business premium is going to give you the security requirements that you have in conjunction with Copilot to make most of your customers most secure as possible. Where you're going to want to look, if you've got larger organizations with larger data sets, more complex environments, is that Microsoft E5 package, the full core license with Copilot together. If you are offering an E3 or an OE3 license, adding on the E5 security package is going to be highly recommended from us to be able to get the functionality that you want to make Copilot as secure as possible. So we're going to talk a little bit about what services you can tack on once you've done the assessment, what you can do to get them more secure, or what you want to see in place within each customer, and the corresponding licensing or Microsoft product that relates to it. So we have 5 different avenues here. We have governing access to Copilot and what Copilot has access to, ensuring that you're mitigating device risk for all of your clients, protecting them against threats because we've now supercharged these users with AI, and we want to make sure that we protect those individuals, securing data and governing data. So this has become tremendously popular topic among MSPs, is the Microsoft Purview solution stack, and how does an MSP leverage that to help their customers get ready for Copilot. And then app discovery. So AI app discovery, being able to manage and control the shadow IT when it comes to AI. So we're going to jump into each of these and have a bit of a deeper discussion on each of them. So the first one is governing access to Copilot and ensuring that those that are using Copilot have the right security access. So when I was working for an MSP, the biggest objection that I got when I was talking to my customers about Copilot was the concern that people would be able to see things that they shouldn't if we gave them access to Copilot. Copilot doesn't delineate between should you see it or shouldn't you see it. It is, do you have the access to see it? Okay, here's the information. So being able to do an access security review, um, putting in dynamic security groups based on roles is really important, and putting in conditional access policies to ensure that people only get access to what they need. Uh, I know that one was always a major concern for customers. Jermaine, I'm sure you've heard the similar sentiments from customers as well.
Yeah, I've also heard the sentiment from some of the MSPs that I've spoken to. Some of them that are like, "Yeah, we're not going to touch anything that we with AI for now because we're not confident that all of the work that we've been putting in is, bulletproof. So if we go and put AI in place, we're not going to, it might expose something that we missed somewhere or we haven't been able to do over the last little while. So what those MSPs are doing is that they're going in and they're doing a full security assessment or audit of their customers. They're
Yep.
doing it for themselves so that they have everything buttoned up on their end, and then they're doing it for their customers as a gateway into the discussion. We're like, hey, we're giving out a free assessment. It's an 8-hour assessment. Our team will do this for you for free to help support you in our launching of better security and getting our customer base ready for AI. And they're actually giving that security assessment away as something that they're going to do for their end customers. But the value behind it is it costs 8 hours of their time, but what it's going to provide to them after they do the evaluation is ideally a clear roadmap on security or the holes they need to plug so that their customer can then go ahead and say, okay, well, I feel confident I can move ahead with this. But even more so, it helps them to fix the things they should have already fixed, but then it also gives them the gaps that they can charge the customer for, which they can say, look, based on this report, we've done this for you for free. Here's all the information. Here's everything we cover in our contract. Here's what's not
Yeah.
covered. We should, here's how much it's going to cost to implement that. So that's a revenue stream by itself
Yeah,
coming out of that. So
absolutely.
we've heard about that on that side of the fence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned briefly using dynamic security groups, tying that in if you're doing an access review and creating role-based dynamic security groups is a great way to avoid over provisioning access for employees. I know when user onboardings happen, it's really easy to give somebody additional access that they don't need by mistake when it's a manual process. So dynamic security groups really makes it easy to avoid those manual mistakes from technicians. The next thing that we'll talk about is a proper Intune policy. So ensuring that you have Intune policies that govern application updates, but also having BYOD Intune policies. So it's great that we're now supercharging users um, with Copilot, but what that's going to do is if you don't have restrictions over personal devices, you're allowing them to be able to access Copilot on a cell phone or Copilot on a personal laptop and generate content from sensitive customer data and store that wherever they will. So being able to dictate through BYOD policies is a really important step in securing a customer's environment for Copilot. Now, the third one here uh, is a pretty simple one, and I'm sure that a lot of you are doing it today. But if you're not, ensuring that you've got a Defender for Endpoint license, either if it's embedded in your core licensing or needs to be an add-on or an Exchange Online protection is really important to securing the personal accounts, the devices of those that are using Copilot, because as we're giving this superpower to end users, we're also giving it to malicious actors if they take over that person's device or account. So it's really important that you want to be able to secure that individual user. They're now a high risk VIP user within that environment because you can access data so quickly without having to go search for it and do tons of harmful things if you have malicious intent within an environment. And then talking about that kind of sensitive data, we have Microsoft Purview and information protection that will allow you to create sensitivity labels and set policies against those sensitivity labels that will dictate what can be done with particular sets of data within a customer. So if something's deemed internal use only or for HR only, super sensitive, confidential, and you can either dictate that Copilot can't access particular sensitivity labels, or if it does, the documents or what it's creating will maintain and inherit those sensitivity labels from the most severe document that it's pulling information from.
So,
So
so Mike, with this one, I think every time we get to this part of the conversation, one of the things always pulls me back to the licensing section, because some of the
yeah,
feedback I get when we have this conversation is, well, we've got 25 years worth of data, half of
absolutely.
it sitting in a closet somewhere. It would be a nightmare for the company that we're supporting or the customer to figure out where everything should go and who should have access to what and so on and so on. And this is when I just sit there and I smile and I say, well, okay, how about we make sure that we put in something that can automatically apply the labels to the relevant documents, continue to monitor and maintain those sensitivity labels around the documents, and update any incoming or newly generated documentation so that it meets and satisfies the controls around that. And the only way to do that is with your E5 security license or the actual E5 license in 365 that does all of this automatically for you. So for those of you panicking on the webinar today saying, "Oh, well, I've got 25 years of data. How do I organize this?" Take a look at what the security automated tagging and automated ring fencing that looks like for those documentation coming out of the Microsoft security. So if you're E3 OE3 and you've got that type of license, but you're not full E5, there is an E5 security license that can bridge that gap. But it does all of this to the documentation automatically. You still have to set the parameters and make sure everything's turned on. But every time we get to this section where it's like, okay, well, the data is the biggest bulk of everything that's sitting there in their SharePoint or in their shared applications. But with that in mind, there is a way to do it automatically. Of course, it costs more because otherwise you'd be doing it and spending the hours and cycles behind it. So there's always a toss up there, but always something good to look. So if you take away something from this section today, it's go look at the security protocols around data management in the E5 license and the E5 security license that you can put as an
Yeah,
add-on to
yeah,
those suites.
absolutely. And that doesn't just encapsulate Microsoft type documents, it's also going to cover PDFs. So with that licensing, so it's going to do not just the Microsoft type documents. Without the sensitivity labeling and without the um, uh, policies applied to it, generative AI and Copilot's going to create a document from sensitive information, and you're now leaving it up to the user to use their best discretion on what should and shouldn't be shared externally or um, do something with that they probably shouldn't, which is generally not a great idea to leave it up to people's common sense. So, utilizing Purview is definitely an important one when it comes to Copilot. And then the final one here that we want to talk about from a security configuration standpoint is going to be the app discovery control with Microsoft Entra Cloud App Discovery. So you want to be able to discover and assess what's being utilized today. Jermaine had a stat that 75% of people are utilizing AI today in their jobs. If you're not selling them Copilot, then they're using something else. And that means that they're taking business information and they're plugging it into an AI tool that, in their terms of service, likely says, we're going to use this as our learning model to then create the next version of this. And the next person that decides to utilize it will be able to find this information. So um, we have lots of people that come to us um, as customers that will say, uh, I'm really excited about it. Here's our best person that uses AI today. They're utilizing, this is Jim that works in finance, and he's been using ChatGPT to create our financial models and analyze them. And he's just taking their company information and pumping it into ChatGPT, which is terrifying, exciting that people want to utilize AI, but terrifying that they're taking sensitive customer information and pumping it into a tool that they have no control over. So by utilizing Entra Cloud App Discovery, you as the MSP are going to help dictate that shadow AI and be able to control it and stop it, and point them to the tool sets that you want to utilize, the ones that the company has control over, and really dictate how AI gets used within a company's environment. So as we go through this process, we want to make sure that when we're talking about the access portion, which is really the first step, is you want to take customers kind of through this journey of what can users access, who has access. This is really the roadmap that you'll be able to utilize for an access review and ensuring that you have the right setup from an access perspective to deploy Copilot in a confident manner and not worried that you have over provisioning of permissions. Now, this is one of Microsoft's hidden gems for MSPs. It is a tool set that we highly recommend. If there's one thing you're taking away here, Microsoft Lighthouse is your view, single pane of glass over all of the tenants that you have partner relationships with. So if you have your GDAP relationship configured with your customers, you're going to be able to pull in the data around security, around the best practices that have been set, and review your customers. So this is going to shorten that window from a security assessment standpoint for you to be able to see what's in place, which customers are in the best spot and which ones aren't in the best spot from a compliance standpoint. And then you're also able to push forward standardized configurations to these customers. That's going to shorten your time for implementation as well. So this is a fantastic tool. If you have not gone in to look at Microsoft Lighthouse, I urge you to go take a look at it, set it up for yourself, because this is really the MSP focused tool for Microsoft to manage all of your customers from a single pane of glass. Jermaine, did you have anything you wanted to add around Lighthouse?
No, I think that was good. Just go check it out if you haven't yet and you haven't used it. You might be using something that's similar, but this is free. It's in your tenant. It's got all the same controls tied around it, but it makes life easy for yourself as the administrator for your customers across the pane, across their all the customers you support. So get on it if you haven't got it. It's free.
Excellent.
Okay. So thank you, Mike, for covering that off. I think we've got a lot of security in there. I haven't seen any questions pounding through in the chat. I know there might be a couple in there. I see some links. Thank you for posting, team. But as we go through, let's talk again. Let's jump into another revenue stream here. So we've gone through and we've talked about those assessments. Revenue stream number 2, we want to push through, and we're going to talk a little bit about migration and securing your data. So coming down to the end of security there, we were talking about making sure that the controls are in place, but we want to be able to give you an opportunity to help your end customers to actually manage, identify, manage, and maintain the data that is actually relevant to their companies. So yes, you may have 25 years worth of data, but 18 years of that hasn't been accessed in the last 5 years. So because of that, you want to go ahead and work with them to figure out, understand, discover and know your data and understand the risks that are inherent and that exist today. And you want to be able to call out and say, based on what you have, here's what's valuable to you that you've identified. Now, based on that, we're going to go and define who has access to what, how is it being used, and what the level of impact and risk is. And this will inform how you're going to configure your security on your business premium side, or how are you going to configure the E5 security to ensure that the labeling, the classification of that data, and the labeling can be applied automatically based on the parameters that you want to be able to set around it. So when we think about it, when you think about life cycle controls, I was working with a group, presenting and training on Copilot with a group just yesterday, and they said, we have documents that we only look at maximum 3 times, and they must be digitally shredded and removed from our data system. So they have to put something in place. So as an example, if they're using AI and Copilot, Copilot can't do recall for a document in that particular information bracket, anything older than 72 hours, because within 48 hours, that document is supposed to be purged. So when you think about that, when you think about life cycle controls, what's the oldest amount of data that can stay in the environment? How do we add retention policies to the right documents and make sure we have the right retention policies? When we think about how we're going to protect the sensitive information, how are we going to encrypt it? How do we prevent data loss? You'll hear a lot of DLP all over the place and GDAPs. When you think about that, all of it's coming down to, how do you protect what's there and what level of protection do you need to put on each section? And then you want to be able to make it easy for the users to be able to utilize and work every day. If it drives me crazy just to open a single Word document and it takes 47 minutes because of 1800 security controls, I'm not going to get any work done. So you have to make sure that optimizing access for everyone that's there, that's utilizing this, and exclude the right data, so that you can correct oversharing and make sure that you include only the necessary access resources. Get your data labeling done, and then select and define what that sensitivity data looks like. What's your low risk? Copilot can see all of that. Medium risk, Copilot can see it, but it has to be enabled in parallel with your data security on the user. High risk, maybe let's hold off and figure out who has access to that high risk data, and how do we ensure that Copilot is either restricted from seeing it or is capable of dealing with what's there, and hitting the compliance. When we think about, and we'll move forward into, so now we understand what our data is, we're going to take a look at, in terms of the revenue points that we can look at in streams. When we think about how we're going to get that customer journey from point A to point C, and we want to figure out what the requirements are, we want to be able to create some form of journey map with them, like the one we just looked at, and be able to collaborate with them to say, okay, here are your requirements. Here's what we're going to do. Let's figure out all the things you need. What are your compliance requirements, etc. Let's evaluate the actual space and make a plan to move only the relevant active data to SharePoint, which you can also have hybrid solutions with information coming in from external, but that requires more complexity. Let's get your compliance. Let's create a secure compliance site, secure permissions and user-based access permissions, so that we have those regulatory requirements in place. And then let's figure out who are going to be the people that are going to be those champions in the organization. Because Copilot AI, this is the newest thing everybody has to learn. And there isn't a single new thing that you have to learn that's easy. Because if it's easy, you either already knew how to do it, or you had a lot of practice that allows you to do it because you're using all the same training that you've used somewhere else. This is not one of those cases. So you have to find people that can be flexible, change quickly, agile, learn how to use it, and then use them as your champions to roll out and create support, that support and adoption across your user base. When we were talking earlier around SharePoint, when we do that definition and we figure out, here's our delineation of access, and here's what our data looks like. Here's our low risk, medium risk, high risk. We can actually work with to ensure that the AI does not come into contact with sensitive data that should not be read, should not be utilized, even at the highest access level. Even though you can see it and utilize it, the AI should not have access to it. It should not be in any reporting, etc. You can use the restricted SharePoint search to allow Copilot to be set apart so that it does not read, does not have access to, it can see but not use, and does not have content that it creates based on that. So you want to restrict it to a specific location, a specific file type, a specific file cabinet, that you want to make sure that all the information that it has access to excludes the stuff that you don't want it to have access to. So this exists today, and it's one of the areas of helping your customer from a revenue stream perspective in understanding your data, understanding how to protect it, understanding what is required and the amount that you have, building it out appropriately and migrating it into SharePoint, but then restricting it in such a way that the AI that cannot utilize it if it isn't required.
Yeah, we've seen use cases where either HR or financial information, company financial information is kept out of the reach of Copilot
Yeah.
through restricted search.
Awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit about training and adoption and pop into this one, because this one, at the end of the day, Copilot could fly planes, it could do whatever it wants to do. But if your team is not interested or willing to do this, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to be utilized. It's not going to be, it's not going to become part of your everyday normal without that readiness and adoption planning. You want to be able at the highest level to gather the right people. So we're talking about those champions, those early adopters, people that will want to be able to do this and are excited about it. You want to get technically ready, and you want to be tailoring an adoption program to your organization culture. So, as an example, if people prefer learning with online webinars and recorded videos, do not invite them to an all hands where you teach them how to use AI, because it's not going to be what they like. Make sure that whatever your organization does today, that you incorporate this training and this enablement into that same framework to allow them to be comfortable, learn and enjoy learning in the way that they currently do, and that it matches your culture. And you want to be able to, there's lots of materials that are available for you, the MSPs. You can go through, you can have your readiness materials. There's links that we're going to provide. And we're going to make sure that you have clickable links and access to this information that's readily available to you through your Microsoft 365 tenant, that you can go through the learn, you can go through the transform and be able to see this. You can get this stuff set up, configured, and you can support your end customer by saying, here's the program. Here's how we're going to use this. Here's how we're going to go through and build your sustainability growth around onboarding this new piece of technical software that will allow your teams to be more productive. Then you want to be able to craft a user experience. Who are the personas? What are the pain points that we're trying to address and the potential productivity gains? Define the engagement touch points, prioritize your feedback methods and issue, and then kind of define what do our success measures look like. So as an example, you have someone on staff that does review of, say, legal documents, and right now, in terms of the backlog that they have and the number of days in the week, etc., your caseload, that person, the information, that person is, minimum 2 weeks out before they can get to a document that comes in today. When you do the define success and measure for your use cases and implementing something like this, if that backlog drops down to a week, then your metric should be able to say the reason it dropped down to a week was because the person that does the review of these contracts, they're able to review not twice the number of contracts in the same 8 hours a day, which has now reduced the overall time to turnaround, which means that eventually that person is going to go from being backlogged for 10 days to being backlogged for 12 days to being backlogged to 8 days to being backlogged to 5 days, until they get to the point where they are up to date. So you put a contract in today, 48 hours, you get a contract turnaround based on working in that position. And you have to define what you're going to do, define how you're going to measure that, and make sure that it's easy to measure, easy to see. Okay? Then you want to build through the experience when you kind of think through Microsoft 365 technology is kind of built around everything's in one pane of glass. You shouldn't have to go between too many applications to get what you want. And you want to create something that is a group that drives that innovation internally. So call it a center of excellence if you want. The the early adopters team. You be creative, work with your partners, and again put something together that mixes with their culture. But have something that's important there that allows the team to be able to share ideas and to embrace a community where people are sharing and training each other on how to use this, right? And whatever you call it is fine. But depending on the size of the organization, you'd want to have something that's chat based that allows people to communicate with each other, host that community, and then customize it with its own site, its own materials, etc. So, as an example, I do a lot of Copilot training. If my team here at Sherweb wanted to review one of my trainings, we have an entire YouTube page of all the trainings that we've published, and they're all labeled, introduction to Copilot, Copilot for the advanced user, Copilot specifically in Microsoft Teams. So you have to pick your flavor and be able to use that and kind of get through it. But one of the hidden gems that exists today is when you use your when you build your capabilities and people communicate, and you will always be able to see from someone else's position a different way or an interesting way to do something that you hadn't thought about yet. And that's where you want to build that experience around having that group to be able to communicate and support each other in learning and being building that experience and using AI and Copilot. So a lot of this material is available for you to use. There's a readiness hub and community already available where you can go. You can get click through demos. You can get information on how to get ready. You'll see all of this information on how Copilot works. Here's a community. Prepare for Copilot. All of that's available today, already created and being updated on a weekly basis by Microsoft, their teams, with new additional use cases and so on. A lot of great resources around that. My favorite place to be right now, it's Copilot's Lab. Do not type Copilot Labs in plural because it will definitely take you to what looks to be a spoof page. So be on your P's and Q's with your security online. It's Copilot Lab. And Copilot Lab is one of my favorite things because it gives you run throughs scenarios that you can put into your current Copilot and test it and see how the simple semantics of changing the additional S or the comma in a sentence edits, changes, and updates the type of output you're going to get. It also trains you in all of the basic ways to use Copilot. And I say basic, but what I really mean is like basic training when you're in the army. That's your foundation. And if you do your foundation well, and you use Copilot Lab to ensure that you're keeping up to date with all of the new features that are released with Copilot, you're going to be the star. You're going to be an invaluable asset to your end customer. With that, second to last bit, I think, on kind of the information that's available. Yet again, don't create anything from scratch. Microsoft has created so much content and information behind this already. Take it, utilize it, share it with your team, make sure that you're using what's there already. And then once you've done that, develop your own training, create your own pilot, and figure out internally how you can utilize your champions within your environment. And as part of that adoption program to drive that change, have your own test group internally. As an MSP, if today, as an MSP, you're not using AI or you're not using Copilot, but your partner is asking for it, and you're like, well, we don't use that, so we either can't support you or we're going to get somebody else to do it. In order to increase and generate more revenue for your MSP, you need to be using these tools internally, right? I work on the AI side for Copilot, but I also make sure that in my spare time I'm learning about Gemini, I'm learning about Claude, I like using Claude because specifically for writing, Claude is fun. I use a bunch of them to create animations. If you haven't created your own video yet, your own futuristic video using an AI, there's four of them that I would recommend. I'm not going to list them on here, but maybe I'll send them out to you in an email. Reach out to me. But those are fun because I'd love to see some of the stories that I enjoy in my head come to life as I write about them and give the information to the AI and it generates that for you. So one of these things is as a champion, as an MSP, you should have the licensing internally. You should have your own champions and you should be using this across your
Yeah.
team and make sure that you're getting the value out of it so you can then share it with your customers. Go ahead, Mike. You wanted to
Yeah,
add something?
absolutely. It's really important. You want to be testing it yourself. You're going to discover new ways to utilize Copilot that you're going to want to share with your customers, and also get feedback from them on how they're utilizing it, so that you can share it with the rest of your customers. So it's really important to be kind of eating your own dog food. You want to be testing out the tools that you're selling. Uh, So, looking at monitoring and the kind of adoption within your customer base, you have two tools that are going to show you adoption information about your customers and how they're utilizing Copilot. You're going to find that in within Viva, or you're going to find that within the admin center, to be able to see information about readiness, adoption, and impact of Copilot. So, looking here at the admin center, you can see this is how you would access it. Go to your admin center, find the product reports page, to be able to see the adoption data that is going to be stored within this. And there's going to be a lot that you can see from a reporting and usage perspective. If you look at this, you can see that it's broken down by application, which is great because you're going to be able to see what use cases your organization that you're supporting is utilizing and what they're not. So that's going to be opportunities for additional training or discovery of how they can further utilize Copilot based on the application usage. You're also going to be able to see impact, time savings, trend lines over how these applications are being utilized. Is it going up or down? And really kind of address that impact, because once you deploy it, you will get one noisy user for sure that says Copilot's not doing what it should. And then you can go back and verify, are they actually using it on a daily basis? Are they using it never? This is kind of your sanity check on how impactful has it been. And this is your business case to bring it forward to the rest of the organization and say, no, actually, this has been really impactful. 50 more than 80% of the users that we deployed it to are using it on a daily basis, and they're saving an hour or 2 hours a day with Copilot.
But unfortunately, Mike, this diagram that you have up, this chart right now, unfortunately says we've deployed it to 45,000 people, but only 2,000, almost 3,000 are using it, which is the reality of what we're seeing today, right?
Yep.
With
You're
adoption.
going to have to combat that a little bit. We know the reality of deploying new software. We don't want shelfware, and with a heavy investment in Copilot, you want to be able to show the results as well.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of wrap this up because we're pushing up against time here. At this time, we're going to drop a third poll into the poll section here. Give us your feedback. We really do appreciate it. And just to summarize where we're at, right now you've got your three primary kind of revenue streams that we want you to work with. There are various revenue streams through our Microsoft Incentives portal, which can support MSPs in growing their Copilot business. Some of those key revenue streams include, let's get to your Copilot preparation services, manages services to get your environment ready, bring you to AI ready, do your security assessments, do your migrations from on-prem to cloud, put in security labeling, Microsoft Intune, put Purview in place, get your customers ready. Then you want to be able to deploy the Copilot within the environment and work to train the adoption, utilization, and manage that over time for your end customer. As a revenue stream, that's creating repeatable business, month to month touch points that you can have, adding more value to that end customer and adding more value to the interactions that you have with them. And then Get your AI readiness services out the door. Like you want to be able to say, based on those three things, if they're AI ready, you've got adoption services ready, and you have their deployment ready, then bang on, you're offering that additional value to the end customers that they are looking for. And that's where you want to be, because that creates more of the stickiness. And let's be real, if they're not working with you to do it, 75% of them are using it internally, and it's not being managed and or utilized in an appropriate way, which brings up, do they have a utilization policy for AI? Again, these are all generating touch points and stickiness with your end customers to kind of build and continue that long-term relationship with them. With that, we'll wrap up. We've got a few more resources which will be provided. We validated all of these, so the links will work when you receive the decks. And this material is also readily available online. I mean, you can't hit the search button on Google without AI showing up somewhere in your browser, whether it's Copilot, whether it's Gemini, doesn't matter. One of them will show up depending on what you're using for your browser as well. And that being said, with that, we've got webinar series in our upcoming events just to keep you kind of live on where we're at. So we've done AI readiness and the revenue streams today. We want to maximize those opportunities with Microsoft Sales Advisor. So we talked a very little bit about Lighthouse earlier. Lighthouse Sales Advisor goes hand in hand. So join us on November 20th to kind of dive into that in more detail. And then we want to look at additional AI revenue streams in December, extending and customizing Copilot. You're going to have customers with very specific requests on what this AI should do in their organization. And then you want to be the person that says, yeah, let's just build you one with Copilot Studio. Here's how we do it. Here's how we extend the capabilities of your AI. So come join us for that one and get some insights on how you can do that. Our in-person events, we still have our MSP master classes coming up. We've got November 6th in Calgary next week. We've got Toronto on November 13th. For those of you who are joining us, we look forward to it. We'll spend some full day together. Leaving that should put you out there with some really good ideas and a good plan on moving forward in your own MSP space. We've got Irvine and Dallas in December as well. So that's it on resources. With that, we can pop over to the Q&A. And hit us up if you've got anything out there. Is there content on making the Teams group automatically? What do you think, Mike? Do you want to answer that one?
Sorry, say that one.
In our Q&A, Alex would like to know, is there content on making the Teams group automatically? What I will say to you, Alex, the answer to that one is yes, there is a walkthrough on in the resources. We'll take you to the page in the adoption and enablement section that will tell you here's how you can generate and create your kind of center of excellence group and generate that in Teams. Ideally, it's the same process across the board. You're creating a channel in Teams that you're inviting the group to, and you're setting up parameters around who can access the group, etc. So it's typical. If you have a standard configuration for your organization today, it would be that configuration plus some minor changes. But again, this is still just a Teams. In terms of setting it up and who's there and what they do, that information you can find in the knowledge base articles and kind of pushing that forward and building that out for yourself. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So we've got Anook's asking, other than security, what are the main pushbacks you're seeing from clients integrating Copilot into their workflows, and how do you recommend pushing it through? Well, there's a whole list of pushback. Right now, we've got a couple of categories. One, our environment isn't prepared. We haven't got funding to go forward with this. That's like kind of the primary. Security is paramount to our organization. We don't have money to migrate to the cloud. We're a nonprofit. We are, government, whatever. It's all around, hey, we don't have money to do that. That's like the whole category with that. Yeah. With that, there's a tons of ways to get around the we don't have money to migrate one, especially depending on where they sit. There are public grants available in Canada. Some of them are available in the US. and you want to be able to instruct your end customer in how they can pay for this over time. One of the ways to support the security cost factor is to do an assessment for them for free and give that as part of your contribution to them migrating, right? So we talked about that earlier. There's a free Microsoft assessment that takes about 5 to 6 hours of technical assessment. It's built out. It gives a full report on where the weak areas are and where the strong areas are in the tenant or environment that you're reviewing. You could do that assessment, provide them the assessment results, and say, okay, based on this, here are the recommendations and how we can get you forward. Let's put that into your budget for a year, right? Hopefully that helps. And then some of the other things that we're hearing is no one there's nothing that we can do in our environment with AI. That one always gets me because I'm like, well, so what you're saying is you've thought about every single thing that you can do with AI and have deemed AI useless because you can't put it into your environment based on what you know today. So just yesterday I was having a conversation with someone and we said, hey, let's use AI to plan a dinner. Let's find the right restaurant, etc. And the person looks at me and they go, why would I do that? I could just use Google to Google my favorite Indian restaurant and just go there. And then I said, okay, well, let's frame this differently. Let's say you're planning an anniversary dinner for your family, the 10-year anniversary dinner for your family, your wife, your kids, the extended family are coming, and you want to find a good venue. You want to make sure that it's the planning and the reservation, all this stuff's done. You're also doing it in a new location or a different city. How about using that? And then they go, oh, yeah, so I could actually use Copilot to give me ideas and help me plan it and find the right restaurant with space to accommodate the total number of people, the allergies, etc. And I was like, go ahead, plug it in. They tried it out and they're like, oh, this is useful. So I was like, it's just two frames of thought on how you could look at that one. And just one example.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I see James jumped in and answered a question for us, but another objection that I'll typically see is we have such a unique workflow that we don't think that drafting emails is going to be useful for us, or they have one very limited view of what Copilot can do for them. So showing them the breadth of Copilot and showing them everything that it can do is usually they need an eye opener, seeing different use cases and different abilities that Copilot has. A lot of the new Wave 2 functionality that's come out is really exciting. So making sure that customers understand the breadth of what it can do and not just that single use case.
Yeah, perfect. And to Jonathan's comment, James's response. So for everyone on the webinar who's still listening in, Jonathan said, if I understand properly, Copilot cannot be scanning and using local endpoint files unless they are OneDrive or SharePoint based. And the response to that is Exchange files would also be visible, but unless it is in the M365, Copilot wouldn't go outside of its scope. That being said, you can actually point Copilot to external data sources using some of the connectors in Copilot. So for everyone on the call, let's say you have a hybrid environment for your end customer. You can tie in external on-prem host data in some form of data center under Microsoft 365 data, all in to be utilized by Copilot or the AI internally, keeping in mind that depending on where your data is, transfer rates, pipe size, transfer data size, you're going to see a lag in performance doing that, but it is 100% possible that you can do that. Okay, with that, we are at 3 o'clock. Thank you everyone for participating in the webinar and sticking it out with us. If you have any more questions, queries, the webinar will be sent out. We will send an update in the email. We will be sharing the deck, and we do appreciate you participating. Please do give us some feedback as well, so we know how we can do better, improve, and also make sure we're giving you the content that you're looking for. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye.